What's the role of reforms now that we're approaching a stage of normalization? What do you think is the role of reforms in making us approach a level of recovery, high level of recovery in the near future?
Well, reforms, as you probably know, have a bit of a dirty name in Greece. They've become a catch-all for everything from pension cuts to tax increases to people being laid off. So you've got to be careful what you say here. But I mean, there is still a little bit of work to do on the fiscal front, not in terms of just cuts, but in terms of trying to, and I think the government has recognized this publicly on the pension system, which has suffered both from the revenue side from something like the public, the PSI, which basically caused a lot of damage to their assets, but also something on the spending side, because we do have a lot of spending as a share of GDP on pensions. But really beyond that, I mean, that should be the end of what fiscal structural reforms are to do. The real reforms we need to do is things which have to do with the banking system and how they deal with the non-performing loans, so the legal framework around that. There's definitely work to be done in terms of simplifying the business environment, and the licensing environment. And really beyond that, though, it's about building state institutions. And that is not legislative. It's about doing the hard slog technical assistance work and training people up and giving them incentives to deliver. And this is very important, say, tax administration, which is the most important. But in other areas too, I mean, public administration, there's a long list of things you could do there, and they're in the memorandum, some of them. Others, the government has its own ideas on, which is valuable. And I think that is where Greece really stood out vis-a-vis other Eurozone economies, that program countries like Portugal and Ireland. I mean, Greece, even Cyprus. Greece had a weaker starting point in terms of its public administration. It had very good civil servants.
Compared even to other countries such as Portugal, Spain, and
that's what we hear from both from the institutions that have worked in Greece, but also in other countries, but also from investors who've come and visited Greece. They have the sense that Greece has got very good civil servants, but there's a relatively small share of them doing too much of the work, and that there isn't a critical mass that there is in other countries. So Greece has some work to do there, but this is long-term work. This shouldn't be the painful stuff that we've lived through the last 5 years. This is building state institutions, and it's a 2-year job, really, 3-year job. And I'm optimistic we'll get there. The government, I think, has realized that this is the path it has to follow. And so I think if you can disassociate the word reforms from painful fiscal measures, I think there's a public support to get the job done.